Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something I think a lot of us have felt at one time or another, that feeling of being spiritually stuck. Like you're just going through the motions. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into what that season is all about, and maybe more importantly, how we can start to move through it.
So let's just get right to it. Have you ever felt like this? Like your spiritual gas tank is just completely on empty? You feel like you're trying, you're showing up, but that connection, that spark, it just isn't there. It can be a really frustrating and, honestly, a kind of lonely place to be.
All right, so let's put a name to this feeling. The source material calls it spiritual barrenness. And I know that sounds like a heavy term, but it's not about failure. Think of it more like a season, a time where you feel a bit unproductive, a little distant, and maybe just stuck in a rut. And you know what? It's a surprisingly common part of the journey.
And this right here is probably the most important thing to get right from the very beginning. Feeling this way is not a punishment. It's not a sign that you've done something wrong. Our source material is really clear on this. It's just a season. It's a temporary phase. And just like winter turns to spring, this season, it will pass.
Okay, so how do you really know if you're in this season? Because, it can feel a little vague sometimes. So let's try to make it more concrete. Let's look at some clear, identifiable signs that might point to what's going on.
So just to be super clear on what we're talking about, it's this period in your faith that's really marked by that frustrating sense of unproductivity, right? And that distance. It's like you're planting all these seeds in your faith. You're doing the work, but it feels like absolutely nothing is sprouting.
Now, what I find really interesting here is how practical these signs are. First, prayer just becomes a chore. It feels forced, or maybe it's just gone altogether. Second, you start to pull away from your community. Being with other believers feels draining instead of filling you up. And third, you just lose that desire to read scripture. It's like the very things that usually fuel your faith suddenly feel like these incredibly heavy burdens.
So seeing the signs is one thing, but actually living in that reality, that's something else entirely. This season is genuinely hard, and a lot of it is defined by this feeling of waiting, which, as we know, brings its own unique set of emotional challenges.
Wow, this quote from the source material really gets to the heart of the pain, doesn't it? That feeling of barrenness is tied so closely to this deep sense of shame. It's the shame of putting in effort without seeing any results, like running a business with no profit, or pouring your whole heart into something just to see it fail. It's a really profound and painful feeling of fruitlessness.
And this slide just illustrates that tension perfectly. On one side, you've got the raw pain of the process. The daily tears of someone like Hannah, the shame of feeling unproductive, that nagging sense that time is just passing you by, which I'm sure Sarah and Elizabeth felt deeply. But then, on the other side, there's always the hope of the promise. Hannah's tears weren't for nothing. She was blessed. The promise is that our tears are not forgotten. And maybe, most importantly, God doesn't work on our timelines.
So, if you find yourself in this hard season, what are you supposed to do? Just sit there and wait for it to be over? Well, not exactly. The source material points us toward this really powerful command, a call to action that totally flips the script from just passively waiting to actively preparing.
This right here is the turning point. Enlarge the place of your tent. This isn't just a nice suggestion. It's an instruction. It's a direct command to start making room for the very blessing you're waiting for, even when you can't see a single shred of evidence that it's actually coming.
And that's the core principle, isn't it? Faith isn't just believing something will happen someday, it's acting like it's going to happen. Enlarging your tent is a physical act of faith. It's about creating space in your heart, in your schedule, in your whole mindset for the future that you are praying for. It's like you're preparing the ground before the rain ever comes.
Okay, that sounds great, but what does enlarging your tent actually look like in real life? Our source breaks this whole metaphor down into 4 clear, actionable steps that basically give us a roadmap for growth.
So, the crucial thing to see here is how all 4 of these steps work together. First, you consciously enlarge your tent. You make room for a blessing, maybe by praying for something that feels bigger than you're used to. Then, you stretch your curtains. You push beyond your comfort zone and past old fears. Third, you do not spare. You go all in, wholeheartedly. And finally, and this is so important, as you lengthen your cords to expand your reach, you also have to strengthen your stakes. You have to deepen your spiritual foundation so you can actually handle the growth. You see? Expansion and depth, they have to happen at the same time.
So we've talked about what the season of barrenness is. We've acknowledged how painful it can be, and we've laid out a 4-step plan for active faith. And that brings us to the final question, the one I want to leave you with.
Looking at your own life, your own faith, right now, what part of your tent will you expand first?